And interdicted the strike by the National Union of Metal Workers, NUMSA's ground staff. The strike is off until the court reaches a final judgment. The dispute relates to salary anomalies of 21 employees hired prior to 2009 being paid higher than the agreed applicable salary scale.
NUMSA members were on strike for about 2 hours before they were told to return to their posts. Comair, which operates Kulula.com and British Airways in South Africa, says the strike did not have a big impact on operations as it had contingency plans in place. The company says it's relieved as the interdict will ensure its customers reach their destinations this Easter period. Comair says it remains optimistic that the matter will be resolved amicably.
We are happy to reduce or to bring the 21 staff members in line with the pay grade over a period of time. NUMSA's preferred approach is to take the lowest, the grouping which is at the bottom of the pay grade to the highest person in the outline. So that is not something that we will be able to do. It's not sustainable for the business. So we have two areas that where the disagreement is fairly big.
NUMSA says this is just the beginning of the battle for them. The organization says it's going back to the drawing board to see what other options it has to resolve the matter.
Workers have been forced into a position of striking because of the failure of Comair. It is wrong, it is immoral, it is unjust that Comair has these wage discrepancies. In certain instances, the gap is as wide as 5,000 rand, if not more. And this is for workers who are doing exactly the same work. This is a problem created by the management of Comair, and because they have no vision for the company, instead of dealing with it decisively as they should, instead of finding an amicable solution to the problem, they run to court and silence the rights of workers to strike.
The parties continue engagement mediated by the CCMA in a bid to resolve their differences. SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, as much as one is tempted to celebrate NUMSA getting a knock from the Labour Court, reserving judgment in Comair's application to interdict the union into taking its members on strike, especially during the busiest travel period, the relief on the airline may be temporary. The fundamental challenges facing the broader passenger transport sector still remain. And to discuss this impact, we're now joined on the line by the Chief Executive Officer of Africa People Mover, or APM, Mr Tumisang Kgabaosele, to shed some light on how long-distance bus sector is facing existential threats. Thanks very much for joining us on the program. Welcome to you. What would you say are the fundamental challenges faced by a broader passenger transport sector, and speaking from the bus sector where you belong?
Thanks, Peter, for having me on your show. One thing that is not fully understood is the cost of running unsubsidized long-distance passenger services. So essentially, we rely on the fares that we collect from our customers to run these businesses. So if you appreciate that generally, especially in the bus sector in South Africa, you have the subsidized services. So this will be mainly commuter buses that will be taking people to and from work. And then you would have the long distance buses. So this is where we play in. So just the cost of keeping our operations above water, it's astronomical.
So, the long-distance bus industry has been living under the shadow of this nationwide strike, and I wonder, what is your view as based on the affordability sense? As you mentioned in your article, a declaration of a strike on Comair was supposed to be impactful on the concerned union. Give us more clarity on this opinion. What do you mean by that statement?
We've seen this before many times over, Peter. At some stage, I used to be the CEO of Autopex, so I'm no newbie to the sector. So the preferred tactic by organized labor is to utilize the high peak period, high demand period to push operators into a corner. To give you an illustration, out of the 12 months in the year, long-distance buses are only profitable 3 months. So this will be around your peak Easter period to the December and January, when people go home and come back. So for the 9 months in the year, we're really better just to stay afloat. So the fundamental issue, especially as far as organized labor is concerned, is that they either do not understand the cost of running our services, or they simply refuse. I mean, the guys are in fact, accusing us of living off the sweat and toil of workers, which is not necessarily true. So the day people start understanding what it takes, I mean, I can go on. The cost of fuel, for instance, about 40% of our expense. Then from there, it's labor. From there, you have obviously most of these assets, long-distance buses. And these are specialist coaches that all of them are imported. We don't produce them in South Africa. So you are looking at between 3.5 up to 5.5 million a unit. So you can just imagine that this adds on. And even the most profitable or the most well-run company in the long-distance sector, their margins are in the single digits.
So what about the issue of government subsidies and regulation? How does it affect the viability and survival of the sector? Does it appear to be helpful during dire times?
It's supposed to be. You know, we have a brilliant piece of legislation, the NLT, National Land Transportation Act, which has been well thought out, and it's supposed to govern the conduct of players in this market. To operate, you need a operating license, and to get one, obviously, you need to prove to the regulator that there's a demand for your service. You need to show some expertise or some experience that you won't be killing your passengers, and most importantly, that the market is large enough to support all the players. So the same issues that are prevalent in the taxi industry, where people are fighting or certain operators fight over routes, tends to happen in our sector, but fortunately it has not really resulted in violence in the long distance buses. So essentially, you will have too many permits that are issued, and the market is saturated. And I can tell you that when APM started 4.5 years ago, there were less than 7 long-distance operators. Today, we are talking of about 15 minimum. And in the same period, the economy has not grown. I mean, the pie has not grown in size. So you ask yourself, what is the logic of giving permits left, right, and center for a market that is already saturated? So this leads to especially small black companies being extremely vulnerable to being undercut by the guys that have been operating for the past 30 years. I mean, I can tell you, the lay of the land is that the only significant black operator, which happens to be a government company, is the autopacks. These guys at some stage, I mean, we occupied about 46% of the market share about 5 years ago. But with increased competition, underinvestment, you have the guys that you have the same company that is now sitting at about half of the market share that it once occupied. So those are the real issues facing us. So the permanent threat by organized labor to go on a strike does not help us. I mean, we saw the disastrous strike last year around the May peak period, where it went on for 5 weeks, and some of our businesses nearly collapsed.
All right, we'll leave it there, but thank you very, very much indeed for joining us and highlighting some of the challenges that you're facing. Thank you so much indeed for your time.